everyone. Welcome to Got Therapy, Dan Rose Show. I'm Michael Baltimore, the host here with Columbus State Television, and we're always happy to have Dr. Dan Rose, the director of the Counseling Center here at Columbus State University. Dan, welcome to another show here on Columbus State Television.
Not only am I the director of the Counseling Center, I'm the president of the Facial Topiary Club. I don't know if you know.
I'm wondering about that. I've been noticing this beard. You want to talk about that just a little bit? It seems to have more volume and more sheen
as we were talking earlier, I have a new beard oil.
Yes.
Which is, it's good for your beard. A 45-minute sort of beard oil rubbing every morning.
I'm sorry. Excuse me? Did you say 45?
45 minutes. It's good for the beard. It's meditative. It's grounding.
That's a long time. It seems to me to work with that.
Well, if you put the love in, the love comes out. You know what I'm saying? That's how it works.
Then that's an interesting word you just used, love, because last week we started our conversation on this show about love, and then it began to move away, and somehow we ended up talking about the DSM-4 and the upcoming DSM-5. And
baby goats. At some point, did we not talk about baby goats?
Did. We probably did. But all right, let's go back
to... Baby goats are the cutest thing. I don't know if you know this.
They really are. A lot of love for baby goats. And so let's just go down that road just a little bit and talk about love. I mean, a lot of people are in love. By the way, I've heard different things said about love. Like when you're in love, you have this deer in the headlights look.
Well, you and I share a bond. We'd call that love, wouldn't we?
Some sort of love, I suppose.
I mean, there's
scary there with that beard of yours, but
a filial. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I was thinking
filial sort of bond that we might share.
Well, there are many different types of love and relationships, and in fact, and so back to my original point was that when you are in love, you block out everything else. This person is wonderful. They can do no wrong. You communicate. It's the deer in the headlight look, is what somebody phrased it. Now, is that love? Well, what is that?
There is it's interesting you talk about this love thing, because this original conversation came out of the fact that my anniversary was on Monday.
That's exactly right. And congratulations to you and your partner.
Thanks. I can't remember her name either.
I just left it open in case we wanted to make a joke there.
That's a key to successful marriage.
Yes.
Forgetting everything.
Yes. Working through conflict and...
No, forgetting. Just completely, just lack of memory will get you. But
all right.
So it was on Monday. Well, there's an interesting thing. There's and I recommend this book to anybody. Alain Badiou is a continental contemporary French philosopher. And I know how popular that is with the kids. They love their contemporary French continental philosophers. This guy is like he's like the David Hasselhoff of, I'm wrong. No, it's more
Germany,
like
I think, but yes, go ahead.
He's more like the, what's that vampire guy? What's his name? Edward.
Yes, on Twilight.
Yeah, he's like the Edward of continental philosophy. You love this guy. But except he's not a vampire.
You're trying to build this up. You could be making a promotional for this. But all right, tell us about what it said. Why did you bring that up?
It's a book called In Praise of Love, and he makes a point to say that love is initially an event, but after the event there has to be a fidelity to said event. So love is not. It isn't a noun. It's something you fall into, and then you must continually be active in. So, for instance, losing your mind in falling in love would be maybe a part of the process. That might be the arrival of said event. But then one must have a fidelity to the event for it to continue. So,
so it's more of a process than an event.
It is something that is always in the act of becoming. And, according to Badiou, it should alter and change the individual in that state. You should be changed by love.
Right.
You should be.
Well, it seems like a lot of people are changed by love, and so does this just happen to you? Are we actively searching for love? I mean, you're walking down the street and you see someone, there's a beautiful girl, and that kind of thing happen for a guy. How does this love begin? Where's the origin of this love?
Well, be careful. Your scenario could be a vice cop.
That's
I get.
I love it. All right, but play along with my scenario, if you will, without the police involved.
But vice cops. They're always funny. But what you say, you're suddenly struck by someone. Well,
Right.
there's certainly a possibility. But see, with Badu, there has to be something after that initial event, because there is the impact of the other in that sense.
Okay.
And Badu has this wonderful way of saying that he really differentiates between sex and love.
Right.
He says that love requires the capacity to be separate in the presence of an other. It is truly, quote, relational. And Badu is sort of connected with somewhat with the philosopher Jacques Lacan. And Jacques Lacan says there's no such thing as a sexual relationship.
Okay.
So in the act of sex, it isn't necessarily an other that you were with. But in an act of love, which sex may or may not be a part of,
Okay.
it is you and a separate other. So
Okay.
two things actually happen, because again, this gets really complicated.
Yeah.
And
Well, that's why we're here.
could be malarkey. But when you are loving someone, there is a you and a them. So in the act of loving, you know more about yourself and someone else. And so therefore, it truly is relational in the sense that there is a you and someone else, and there is a movement between those 2 points. And the fall is usually the first step in that sort of thing. But for Badu, he says we seldom find ourselves in that spot. That true moments of subjectivity, where there is a me and a you, or a me and a world, or a me and something else that I'm in some sort of dialectical tension with, are few and far between. That we often live our lives in a way that are sort of numbed or distracted, or we're unable to, in a cognitive psychological perspective, love should be, I always get this reversed, it should be an accommodatory event, not an assimilatory event.
Okay, explain that for our viewers. And me, by the way.
Yeah, unless I'm reversing this, because I have not only do I have just dyslexia, I have conceptual dyslexia.
Okay.
So
Opportunity to work through that right here.
Yeah.
Here we go.
With assimilation, the mental construct or the mind of the individual is not changed. It's just that the event or whatever you're thinking or feeling, whatever's happened to you, becomes a part of what's already there. So it's think of the Borg in a way. You know,
Okay.
it's assimilated.
Right.
With accommodation, it requires a higher level change, a shift in the individual. Your mind is different as a result of this experience.
Okay.
You are different. So Badu wants to say that we seldom are able to move to a place where we were open to the capacity for an accommodatory event, where we are changed and altered by the things around us.
That's very rare. So.
Yeah, here's what he says. Now, Badu, man, he says there's a couple ways we can get this. Love is only one of them. He says we can also get it from art, science, and politics. Maybe I think he gives himself 4. Yeah, art, science, and politics. So there are ways in which we can have that sort of event happen to us,
Okay.
which is part of what that interest in music and that paper I talked about earlier. We'll talk about it.
Right. Yes, that's right.
But it happens that way. Love, however, first, and this is the point of his book. Really good point.
Okay.
He tells a story. He tells a story about how he was flipping through the newspaper, and there's this agency in France that says, we will find the person for you so you won't have to worry about falling in love. As if there was an agency that would find the perfect partner for you that wouldn't require the, quote, falling, wouldn't require the potential danger, and they would literally just find someone for you.
Rejection or other
they would
things that might come with that. Yeah.
And we do it in our biz.
Well, there's a lot of match making and .coms and so forth.
I always wondered who would. In fact, I was going to just fill those things out just to see what would happen, but then I figured, what if my wife found out I was doing this, and then I had to explain. I'm just trying to figure it out.
This is an experiment, honey.
And then,
I do not.
and then then that just wouldn't work.
Then you really would be looking on there because
yeah,
that
that's
might
right.
be
Then
the
she
end
would
of something
have
else
it.
there.
But
so,
yeah,
matchmaking and putting people together without the idea of and the trauma or the disappointment and all the other things that go along
the danger,
with falling in love.
And Badu says that is exactly the wrong way to do it. That gets in the way of the possibility of some sort of accommodation. The event must be unheralded, man. It must hit you, pow, up to the eyes.
Right.
You have to fall.
Right.
And he says that but who's also a bit of a Marxist, so he sort of blames this a little bit on the notion of how a capitalist system has sort of pervaded everything.
Okay, so that's a chapter we might skip in the book.
Well, it's sort of just it's a thread that runs through. He didn't talk much about the Marxist stuff.
All right. So so being in love. You know, and you mentioned accommodation. That's a great word that you have. It's a give and take, because we hear a lot about in a relationship you have to give and take. You have to accommodate. You have to.
Don't tell my wife this.
That's right. She's not. She's got to come on this show. There's just no way, because we have to straighten out a lot of things.
She used to have her own show. She was the Ask the Psychologist every Monday on WTVM.
You know, we have to get her in. I want to. All right. I want to talk to her.
She's better looking than I am. Doesn't have quite this luxury in his beard as mine. She doesn't.
Yeah.
I
Are we
make
back
her
to the
shave.
beard? All right, so we've got all of these Match.com and relationship websites out there for us to find someone. How does a person know that it hits them, as you said, between the eyes? Is it just like the room goes dark, the lights, the fireworks? What happens with this kind of thing? How do we know?
One of my favorite theorists, Otto Kernberg. You ever heard of this guy, Otto Kernberg?
Yeah. Good guy.
Should be an ice cream flavor after this guy. I'll have the Otto 2 scoops of the Kernberg, please. But what would that taste like?
Object relation kind of a guy too.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was.
We talked about that.
Yeah, he was. What flavor do you think Kernberg would be?
Kernberg would be a Neapolitan.
A Neapolitan.
Yes, that's the chocolate, the vanilla, and the strawberry.
Okay. Well, I don't know what that means.
I don't either, but we can work that out on the next show. So go
I'm
ahead.
a poor Appalachian boy. I've never had a Neapolitan. What is
never
that?
had that.
Didn't he like invade France, or he was Elba? I don't know, something. But
Otto Kernberg.
Otto Kernberg. Otto
Yes.
Kernberg. Kernberg says that love is a borderline state.
Borderline.
He says that we all dip into and by borderline state he means a point at which we are in a place of extremes. We're splitting. There is black and there is white, and there is a lot of affective instability there, and that whenever that first initial boom, when you are exposed to the person that you love, when they hit you,
right,
you move into that temporarily, into that borderline state.
Okay.
And that
that is equilibrium that things it's all in chaos and conflict.
That is the impact of the event.
All right, there you go.
And then once that happens, you Badu would say that, and I think Kernberg as well, that one has to have the capacity to move then into a state of some integration. They talk about the initial, the first 4 months of a relationship, there is this moment of passionate infatuation.
Right.
But the work of love may begin 4 months later when you're in a position of being able to integrate, to find a way to bring the black. Because the first 4 months of a relationship, your partner can do no wrong.
Absolutely, that's what.
And then after that fifth month, you're wanting to find a way to bury them in the backyard.
Right.
Or is that just me?
Or them you, by the way.
Okay,
it can work either way. So yeah,
it
is a lot of work involved in this love thing we've been talking about so far. So that honeymoon period, that 4 months or so.
Period.
Or afterwards, that's an interesting phrase too, isn't it? All right, so then it's down to work, and it's about accommodation, give and take, as we talked about before,
well,
and
I think the
assimilation and
it probably is a bit of both. Maybe there is, in the act of integrating that initial impact, there's the capacity for you to be changed as well as the other to be changed.
Right.
Also elements of assimilation, because you're not totally changed.
Right.
So a lot of the theorists I dig would talk about that that there's a continual oscillation between that borderline state and that neurotic state, that we need to be able to move into states where there's affect instability and there is large black and whites. I mean, when you're listening to a song that you really like, when you're watching a film or a movie, there's this need to be able to move into an emotional and cognitive space that allows you to be lost. You fall into a movie. Think about it. A really good movie you like you're a big fan of them. What do you like? You like?
Here we go. You don't know. You're about
like
to
the
tell
Twilight.
Me.
You like the Twilight movies, right?
I don't know, but I've seen them. Yeah. There you go. All
So
right,
when you're watching the Twilight, there's
but
like
yes.
15 or 16 of them, right? There's like the end that they like have grandkids, little werewolf babies. I don't know.
5 something.
Yeah,
based
something
on
like
the
that.
Books, yes.
But
We're going to have you back, by the way, on a movie review show.
We should do the
people
movies.
have to tune in for that for sure.
But you fall into a movie, a movie
so
you love.
Get in the character.
So in some ways, the cognitive, emotional impact of falling in love occurs in different states. If we take Badu, he talks about those different vertices: art, love, science. When you go up online and you find out that they've discovered something, like they just found, and this may not necessarily generate a falling into, but they just discovered the intermediary form of a turtle, an animal that doesn't have quite the fused shell of a turtle, but something close.
Okay.
You know, that suddenly you might fall into that. You probably not, because that's kind of boring. But
right.
like something.
There are a lot of events out there,
right,
and,
like
and
moments of
what
celestial stuff. They discover a new nebula or something, or
right.
suddenly you get zapped. You see that, boom, you fall into it. A poem, movie.
Anything that may kind of connect with you emotionally.
Chicken fighting.
Right, well, or less,
That's
or,
an
or
art.
not maybe, but some compassion, some connection on an emotional level with you that might put you into that. And so, is that what you have to do in a marriage, in a long-term relationship? You
Well,
have
it's
to
a lot
sort of
like chicken fighting.
You have to rekindle that. Do you have to work at it? I mean, do you have to find those moments and rebuild those moments when the fire kind of goes out a little bit? You hear about that in relashipships.
Well, if you're married to me, that fire never goes out.
That's
it's more like a burning and an itching, really. It's not so much fire.
It might be something very different from that.
It's really.
All right, there
but
you
yeah,
go.
well, I think I don't know if it's possible to maintain fidelity to the event in a Bedouin stance. It's not to try to recapitulate that falling again.
Right.
And that could be a problem. You may have already set yourself up for a problem as if you say, well, we have to keep the fire burning.
Right.
What Badu would say is the act of accommodation is to be able to do something with the fire that you had. How does it change it? How do you walk this? Where do you take it?
Okay.
And that, part of that journey is, you know as well as I, that part of that journey is many things. There are moments of hilarity, despair. I think he would say that the reverse side of that French ad where they talk about falling in love.
Mm-hmm.
Part of falling is to be bruised, is to be to lose control, to find yourself in a state of a vertiginous place, and there could be something problematic in saying, well, we have to keep our fire kindled. That could be a way to avoid the true impact, a true fidelity to the event of being in the presence of another.
Right. So it's just important to work through those moments, good, bad, or in other ways, to maintain the relationship over time. Speaking of love and those kind of things, and all of these websites and in marriage in itself and these kind of things we're talking about, there's a high divorce rate, or people over 50% of those.
Mm-hmm.
So and
they're not married to me. That's part of the problem.
That may be. But are these folks trying to rekindle that emotional experience, that first falling experience, by going to another person and another person?
I think Badu would say that the difficulty is maintaining fidelity to the event. One of his things is politics, and he would say that, for instance, the American Revolution. If we look at that as an event, just like falling in love, it's something that happened. We have to continually maintain fidelity to it. We have to be in continuous dialogue with the event, not as something that's historical, but it's something that is present. And so that requires work. That requires an openness. That requires it being lost and being found. I think he might also say, though, that lots of these marriages weren't true events.
Right.
Probably.
All right, so this has been an interesting discussion.
Speaking of love,
here.
do you think I'd be quite a catch? Wouldn't I? What do you think?
You know, I'm questioning that right now,
Really?
based on some of the things you say.
Just if
the fact
you
that
were
you had
married,
an anniversary is a good sign for you. So
yeah,
you
it's
get
our
points
first.
for that.
but
it's a
it's
little
a month.
shaky right
we
now.
were celebrating the first month.
Oh, it
So
hasn't
that's really
been that
what
long.
it is.
Okay.
But can you, if you and I were together, what do you think that'd be like, being married to me?
I have no response for that other
Really?
than I would have to get caught up on some reading, first of all, on some of these
And a
textbooks.
giant barrel of beard oil. You know how much beard oil you go through in a day?
You know, when you're,
I'm going
to have a talk with you. This is not right. There's some things going on here. 45 minutes with your beard in the morning doesn't sound quite right.
I think a man should take at least 45 minutes with his beard. It's a personal thing.
All right,
like,
I got it. All right.
I call it my chin pet. How about that?
Yes. We're finding out
like
way too much information about this beard. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. It's been quite a ride today, talking about love and marriage and relationships and French philosophers. And here with me is Dan Rose, the director of the Counseling Center here at Columbus State University. I'm Michael Baltimore. We're glad that you tuned in to Got Therapy, the Dan Rose Show, and we'll see you next time here on Columbus State Television. Tune in again.